everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about social media and COVID-19. What should you be sharing? Where should you be sharing it? How should you be sharing it? And who should you be sharing it with? This pandemic has changed everything for us. And so we want to talk about how those of us in social media and those of us who are small business owners, how we have pivoted and what we're going to be doing in social now that we've moved away from our normal life and we have moved into the new normal. I want to thank everybody who's joined us today. We're going to have 2 case studies a little bit later on. Except for those 2 people, if everybody would please mute their mics, their audio, that would really help us out. And I am now going to share my screen. Give me a high five in the chat if you cannot see my screen. And I just wanted to welcome everybody to the DCSBDC COVID-19 Initiative webinar. These are services for your business, your small business, to help you navigate through the pandemic. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Danielle Ricks. I am a communications and marketing subject matter expert. I'm one of the counselors with the DCSBDC COVID-19 Initiative Small Business. And today we're going to be talking about COVID-19 and social media marketing, how to communicate during a crisis. So the agenda for today, we're going to talk about the importance of social media during a crisis like COVID-19. We'll talk about social media trends in the era of COVID-19. We'll talk about how to boost online engagement and business impact. And we'll talk about ways to market your business through 2 case studies. I thought it would make more sense for me to, I could tell you how to do this, but I really would like to hear the voices from the people who I've worked with as part of the DCSBDC Small Business Development, so that you can understand how the process works. So we'll do the case studies and we will, as always, leave time for questions and answers. So again, my name is Danielle Ricks. I am the owner and what I like to call the head storyteller at my small business, Danielle Ricks Productions. I do everything from communication plans to social media marketing to traditional marketing. And I might ask, I hear someone talking, could you guys please mute your phone? I'm gonna mute all right now, hoping that I remember to unmute our 2 case studies when it's time. All right, thank you. And then I'm gonna just admit one more person. So I've got a lot going on. I'm facilitating today. I'm admitting people into the webinar. We've got 2 guests, so bear with me as we go through all that. All right, next slide. So I like to talk about the 5 W's of communications: what, where, who, when, why, and how. As I started out in broadcast journalism, these are the things that you learn when you're talking about communications, right? So these 5 things, the 5 W's of communications: who, what, when, where, and why. We use them in communications, we use them in social media. We're going to talk about today who you should be engaged with, what you should be posting, when you should be posting, where and why you should be posting. And we're going to go over how things have changed because of COVID-19 and how that is probably going to change your posting cadence and the things that you're going to be talking about on social. So let's talk about this COVID-19 and social media. Social media, COVID has changed just about everything, including our relationship with the internet. How often we use it, how we use it, when we use it. And we are online more than ever before. People are working from home, they're attending school from home, they're catching up with friends on video calls, and the endless Zoom meetings. And as stores and restaurants around the globe shuttered their doors for months on end, we all headed to the internet to order essential items for our homes and for ourselves. This caused an unprecedented online ordering numbers. And I want to just look at some of the data points as it relates to social media. So when consumers started spending more time at home during the pandemic, they also started using social media more. And this provided an unexpected boost to the engagement on social platforms. The coronavirus has hastened the development and the popularity of new live streaming sources. Video chats, gaming features on social networks have all increased. People are turning to social media to keep themselves entertained, connected, and informed while they're spending more time at home. According to eMarketer, and you'll see this in the graph in front of you, when US consumers started spending more time at home during the pandemic, they also started to spend more time on social media. So I'm going to repeat that. They started spending more time on the internet. They also started spending more time on social media. This is where your customers are. Facebook saw an increase of 70% in its usage across the app. So that's Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, because Facebook owns all three of those. The Harris poll conducted between late March and early May found that between 46% and 51% of US adults were using social media more since the outbreak began. One of the biggest factors fueling the recent rise in social media is, for one thing, just a pure desire for fun. People want a distraction from the seriousness of their situation. And an example of that is TikTok. Its growth has skyrocketed exponentially, and it came mainly from older social media users who previously thought the platform was silly or nonsensical or immature. Well, they discovered the benefits of TikTok and why people needed more entertainment. That may or may not be useful for your business, but what I'm telling you right now is to focus on the fact that folks are on social and they're primarily on Facebook, like that or not. All right, so now let's move on. We know that there are a lot of people on the internet, and we know that they're using social media. That's from the data that I just shared with you. So who should you be connecting with? Well, the very first thing I want you to think about is knowing your audience. No matter how long you've been in business, this is the time to start gathering information and knowledge about your customer base. This is going to set the tone for everything you do during a crisis like COVID-19 and beyond. And the relationships you're going to build through effectively knowing and meeting customer needs will endure long after the pandemic is over. So what do I mean by know your audience? You got to start with the basics. Who are they? What's their age? Where are they located? What's their gender? What are their basic interests? What's their income level? And once you have a basic profile, you can go further, particularly if you've been in business for a while. You want to go a little bit further and ask yourself, well, what does all that mean? So I found out what their age and their income, and what does all that mean? Well, that means how you're going to target them and how you're going to market to them, because now you're meeting specific demographic needs, and this is where the point starts, where you're reaching out to your customers and meeting them where they are. So particularly during a time of crisis, you want to find out what your customer is thinking and feeling. You want to do some research. Well, how do you do that, Danielle? Where do I find out how they're feeling and thinking? Okay, start with the influencers that target similar customers to yourself. So if you are a restaurant owner, you want to start looking for influencers that restaurants have hired to get the word out about their specific restaurant, because those are the people that are going to give you the litmus test and let you know what the temperature in the room is and what people are thinking. Are your folks working from home? Are your customers looking to connect with you from home? Do they have kids that are keeping them busy? And if so, maybe you don't want to market to them in the middle of the day because they're running around after kids trying to make sure the kids are doing their homework. So are they trying to stay fit and healthy while they're in quarantine? Is there anything in your particular business that you could offer along those lines? What problems do they have that you can solve? I think each of us as small business owners should be asking that question of ourselves time and time again. What problems do we have that do our customers have that we can solve? How are we solving problems for our customers? Then take those answers and take a step back. Forget about everything you've done and kind of everything that I've just told you, and think about your customer. Step into their shoes. Look for new opportunities to share products in a different way with different people. Now, if you have a brick and mortar or a food truck, or you actually have something tangible, you might want to think about how can you move that online and pivot so that you can reach more people. I would also encourage you and all of my clients to think about what product do you have that you can sell, because these products are going to keep us healthy, agile, and nimble if in fact we go into a second wave of the coronavirus. So start thinking about what those things are that you can brand and you can sell for your business. So now let's look at some more statistics, and this is where they're spending their time. We talked about Facebook, and that overwhelmingly that's where they are in the United States. So what you want to do then is rethink your paid media approach, and that is your ads. Have you started taking out ads on Facebook? If you have not started taking out ads on Facebook, if you do not have a paid social media strategy, this is the time to start one. They're not that expensive. $150 can go a very long way. And we talked about the demographics before. You can target your paid advertising to a specific demographic. So when I talk about why it's important for you to know who that demographic is, this is where it's going to come back to play. Because when you take out these ads, you want to be able to target your ad towards that particular audience. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. All right, social media messaging during a pandemic. By now, if you guys are already in business, I hope you have communicated with your customers what your COVID-19 protocols are. If you have launched a new business, this should be top of mind for you. Customers want to know that when they're doing business with you, they are safe. So you want to make sure to communicate across all social media platforms what your protocols are. First of all, when open back open, the very first thing is to let people know that you're open, right? You want them to know that you're actually doing business. But beyond that, how have you secured your space so that when people come into it, they feel safe? All of us are concerned right now about hand washing and face masks and how businesses are cleaning. So you want to make sure that you are communicating that through your social media channels, across all channels, and via e-blasts, and via mailings, and via your website. I know it sounds probably redundant to do that, but you just never know where your customer is going to find you. So you want to make sure that information is in all of those spaces. You want to inform them of your protocols. You want them to be confident that they're safe. And you want them to know that your brand has reached out to customers via email, right? So be sure to bring up all your different media accounts. This is a simple act that you can do. All right, let's move on. So let's talk about social listening. Social media is not just about what you're posting on social media. You as the business owner, excuse me, or the community, excuse me, or the community manager that you hire, they're going to be responsible for listening to what is happening in the space. So you want to be aware about what is happening in the news, right? The last thing you want to do is seem insensitive across your social media accounts. You don't want to be pushing a promotion on a day when your county has locked down, or we've gone into a second wave, or new statistics have come out about the death rate in the United States. And this is where your social listening skills come into play. Being aware of what is taking place in the news. Now I know that's very difficult. It's hard to be on top of all of this. For those of you who have social media managers, these are the places where I'm going to suggest you go. If you have to do it yourself, you need to set up some alerts. So for the social media managers, or those of you who have social media managers, you want to go to places like Sprinkler, Sprout Social, CrowdTangle, and Brand Watch. They allow you to set up key terms for mentions of COVID-19 or the coronavirus in connection with your community. So you would set up an alert for COVID-19 in Maryland, COVID-19 in DC, COVID-19 in wherever you're located, and you want to set up several alerts. And you can also accomplish some level of social listening without additional software like the one that I just mentioned, without the investment in those, with some native tools with Facebook, Twitter, and even Nextdoor, but that's going to take more time. So you have to determine how much time you have versus how many resources you have, and that will let you know how you're going to be able to listen in and make sure that you're staying up to date with what's happening in the news. You want to follow relevant hashtags. So hopefully you're following hashtag COVID-19, hashtag COVID-19 Maryland, hashtag COVID-19 Virginia, hashtag COVID-19 DC. You want to follow local business leaders. Please do follow DCSBDC on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. You want to follow the Small Business Association. You want to follow your local county representatives to make sure that when they come out with information, you know it. You don't want to be doing birthday shout outs when your county leader has just told you your numbers have gone up by 57%. Like, that is not what you want to be communicating on social. And you then, so Danielle, what do I want to communicate? Okay, so if the numbers have started going up, you're following the news, you do have a promotion that you have to put out, you might want to put that on hold, and especially your pre-scheduled posts. Those of us in social always know when somebody's dropped the ball and a pre-scheduled post has come out and it's hit kind of hard because it's insensitive. So even if you've turned your business over to a social media manager, it is your job to look through the information that the social media manager is sharing so that you understand what's getting posted and you're juxtaposing to that to what's happening in the news. So I don't want you to go radio silent when there's a big uptick in cases or the pandemic looks like it's getting worse. I'm not suggesting that you go radio silent. I am suggesting, however, that you readjust what you are saying. Maybe, as we talked about earlier, you go back to talking about your social media protocols for your business and how there hasn't been an outbreak at your business. I mean, that's really good to know. Promote that, use that your business has not seen an uptick. Those are the kind of things that you can start sharing after you've been in the space and you've done some social listening and you understand that there's some new things happening in your county and across the state that you want to make sure that you're being sensitive and empathetic about. Speaking of being empathetic and sensitive, you want to lead with that. You want to make sure that the people understand that you care, because while physical isolation can lead to more time spent on social channels, businesses will likely gain loyalty by coming across as not being opportunistic. You want to explore ways to be helpful, even if it doesn't involve buying products from your services. What, Danielle? That's crazy talk. No, really. You don't always want to be pushing products and services on people, right? So you want to be able to show that as a business owner, you understand what's happening in the marketplace, you're empathetic and you're sensitive, and it's not about necessarily your products. So how do you do that? You can talk about messaging, offering a donation to a food bank with proceeds going to a food bank. Maybe you will provide free services or goods to a nonprofit organization, or you are helping out in the community during the pandemic. What is the good that your company is doing, your business is doing out in the world? Share that information, and that'll let your customers know that you're involved, you're empathetic, you're sympathetic, and that you want to be a part of this conversation and you want to help heal us from this pandemic that's happening. And by demonstrating that your business genuinely cares and is doing its part to help out, social media managers then can build trust among consumers. Because even during stressful and turbulent times like this present pandemic, social media managers can drive engagement and focus on quality messaging relevant to your customers' pain points. So we know that one of the pain points is that if we go on lockdown again and people are not able to get outside, and especially now that the weather is getting colder, and that is, for those of us in the Northeast, that the weather is getting colder, people are going to start going stir crazy. And with that in mind, what can your business offer as a solution to that? What can your business offer as we get ready to go into these colder climates and people are at home and the kids can't run outside and play, and you still have to do your 50 million 8,000 Zoom meetings. You still have to get in a workout if you can. You still have to come up with breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week. What can your business offer these particular people to allow them to release some of their pain points? And then what you need to start doing, either yourself or your community manager, your social media community manager, is track the performance of how your posts are doing. If you're posting and posting and posting and posting, and you're not looking at what is getting the return, who's liking it, who has clicked on it, who has actually done the call to action. You've asked them to sign up for X. Have they or haven't they? If it's not moving the needle, you've got to change your approach. And so you're going to track your performance. You're going to adjust your content based upon the performance in the analytics. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter all have free tools that will give you analytics so that you can see your demographic, when a post was successful, what time of day it was successful, who it was successful with. You should also be doing this on your website, folks. You should also have a webmaster that's behind the scenes, letting you know what is resonating with your customers. What did they click on? When did they click on? And the most important thing, how much time did they spend there? Particularly on YouTube. You can click on a video, but if you don't spend more than a couple of minutes there, that doesn't really count for much, right? So you want to know for your YouTube channel, how many times did they click? How long did they stay? And then you can make your adjustments based upon that information. All right, let's move on. So social media approach continue. Now is really a time to get creative. In response to the restrictions that people are facing, influencers and business owners, ambassadors, they've all changed their social media approach. In this fast changing environment, business owners must be nimble. Lots of brands are switching to live streams, for example. We are going to hear from a business owner a little bit later, coming up very soon actually, who has also had to go to live streaming. She went kicking and screaming, but she went over to live streaming to do her classes and got creative about how that would work. You want to explore new ideas. If you wanted to expand your social media strategy, this is the time to do it. If you were looking at new platforms, this is the time to do it. If you're not on Instagram and you want to be on Instagram, now's the time for you to go experiment. Listen, lots of brands are switching to live on Instagram. And just so you know, LinkedIn also has a live feature now, and LinkedIn also has a story feature now. So if you were ever curious about doing stories, now's the time to go ahead and try that out. Singers, musicians, DJs, they're all doing free concerts. I went to a free Alicia Keys concert sponsored by American Express. It was absolutely fantastic. Celebrities are offering everything from workouts to feel-good news shows. If you guys follow Holly Berry, she does a Friday Fitness where she gives us tips every Friday on how she gets into shape. And we hear from small business owners all the time about how they're using some of these live features to connect. So, and I want to talk about that for just a second. I know that a lot of people are afraid of the live aspect and the video aspect of it, but visuals do really well on social, and video does even better than photos. So thanks to these smartphones, you don't have to be a professional videographer to do a video. You can sit right in front of your camera the way we're sitting here right now and record a 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute plug for your business, 1 2 minute story about how your business is doing. You want to make sure that you're sharing that on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. And then you want to take a step back, as we talked about before, and figure out, where are you resonating most with your people? My folks live on Facebook. I get the most traction on Facebook, and after that is Instagram. So I'm still trying to unlock LinkedIn, but that means I need to spend more time over there to be able to unlock what's the right amount of time to post on LinkedIn. What's the right length? But now is that time to experiment, and experimenting with video is going to take you a long way. So if you've been afraid of it before, now is the time to go ahead and explore those ways that are going to help build relationships, particularly with video, using these little smartphones. You don't need a big old camera, and that'll get you to the next phase of where we are in our social media engagement. So the importance of social media, you want to be social today more than ever in history. People are using social media platforms, as we discussed. Social media has become an indispensable component to our daily life. Homeward bound people with little to do, COVID looming over them, are looking to social media and for online consumption. And the businesses that survive this are going to do well. All right. So now I'm going to, I think I have a couple of people that I need to admit into the room, and then we are going to get started with our guests. So hold on. All right. Okay. So let me first introduce you to Kiana. Kiana, I'm going to, can you unmute yourself, or do you need me to unmute you?
Nope, I did. Can you hear me?
All right. Kiana M. Stewart, she's the CEO and Principal Consultant of Global Force Tech Consulting and the President of Global Force for Girls, Inc. Kiana is very, very busy. And when she came to me as a client at DCSBDC, the very first thing she said is, I know I'm supposed to be using social media, but I don't have time. Well, she's running 2 companies, so I get that. I get why she doesn't have time to do it. But Kiana decided that now was the time. She was going to take the leap, and now was the time to get her social media strategy together. And Kiana, why don't you talk people a little bit through the process of why you got in touch with DCSBDC, how you and I connected, and the steps that you took to navigate through.
Sure. So first, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me and for having this conversation. For someone like me that was very apprehensive about moving into the social media space, sort of as a component of my business, the services that the DCSBDC provide, and specifically you have provided, have been instrumental, not only in our success, but also in helping to reframe my understanding of the importance of social media from a business perspective. So as you mentioned, when I came to you as a referral, actually, I was thinking about ways that I could extend information about social media from the business, right? And really wanted to, as you said, I knew that I needed to be on social, but I didn't really, I was going kicking and screaming, and then also the time was a huge factor. And so what we did was really work on meeting me where I am, right? Considering the fact that I am super busy, like many of us are, our conversations really centered around, okay, what is it that you can do today? And really identifying the ways that I can just get the word out, not necessarily from a building my customer portfolio perspective, but just from a brand awareness, and identifying, you know, how I separate myself as the CEO of the company from the actual company's brand, and why that's important, and how, you know, driving engagement can also eventually lead to, you know, an uptick in customers seeking you for your services. So I think the conversations for me were helpful because it allowed me to see the strategy behind social media, and not necessarily, I just need to be posting just for the sake of posting. You know, from that perspective, I still probably wouldn't be very much interested in it. But when we talked about the strategic components, that this is a necessary component to your business development, just like having lawyers, just like having an accountant, you know, having employees as you're growing and you're scaling your business, then that really sort of helped to reframe the importance of social media and what I needed to do as a business owner to start that process.
I love it. And so you took us through the shift in perception and perspective, which is always good for business owners. And then what was your next step? Because I think this next one was really important, particularly for busy people. And that's who you brought on board to help you navigate through this.
Absolutely. So when we spoke, you know, it was very nebulous. It was like, you need to be doing this. I mean, I just listened to you go through all the list of things that we need to be doing
and it kept growing, right? It just kept growing and growing.
Like, okay, even just listening to that list, I'm already overwhelmed. So our strategy was, you know, let's just take small chunks, right? Like, let's get you some assistance, let's get you some help, let's get somebody who is really knowledgeable about social media, can look at it from that 50-foot perspective, but who can also work with you and push you to get you to where you want to go, right? And so a part of that I had already started, because I kept hearing, you need to be on social media, you need to be on social media. And so I had already started interviewing folks. But I took a step back and I said, you know, I'm not ready for this. You were, you know, very eloquent in saying, like, there was work that I needed to do. There were things that I needed to make sure were in place before I could even hire someone. And so once we had, you know, several other conversations, it was really important for me to then say, okay, I feel like I'm at the place where I can bring someone else in who's much more knowledgeable, who actually has the talent and the resources to be able to help me frame the strategy, but also start to post to see that engagement, you know, increase and actually could show me like what the benefits really are. And so I made my first hire specifically for social media a couple of weeks ago, and that has been just tremendously amazing. I mean, she's awesome, not only at just knowing what to do as far as the social media is concerned, but also with, you know, meeting me where I am, right? Like you mentioned the busy piece. Like, again, we're all busy. We all have things to do. Many of us are, you know, wearing lots of hats. And we were just talking before this call about process, like what works, what doesn't work, how can we tweak things, how can we make adjustments so that she's getting what she needs from me, but that I'm also not feeling, you know, overwhelmed by the whole process of it. So making that hire, again, has been really transformative, not only for me personally, but also just having that extra layer of assistance, guidance, and oversight to make sure that the messaging that we're putting out about social media is crafted in the way that it should be to see the kind of engagement we want to see.
And one of the things I do want to point out is that you had a lot more content than you probably thought. And I think everyone has more content than they probably think. But moving forward, you've got to gather more content. And I think it becomes uncomfortable, particularly those of us who come from a broadcast background like myself. We're always behind the scenes. And so you have to shift the perception of, you got to take a photo of everything. Every
Right.
time you're out, every time you're doing something. As my friend would say, if you didn't take a picture, it didn't happen. So there are pictures all happening all the time, building content, building your content library, making sure that you have video. So you do speaking engagements. Talk about some of the content that you have to give folks an idea of what's in your library and what you were able to hand off to the social media manager, because you don't want that community manager to have to start from scratch and go, oh my God, I got to build up all the graphics now, and I've got to come up with all of the quotes now. But if you have a book, if you have photos, if you have video, if you're out and about, that starts to build your social media library, which gives the community manager something to work from.
Right. So, I mean, again, we just spoke about this, you know, about a half an hour or so ago. And we talked about it as a part of the strategy. And the most important thing, I think, for me, based on our conversations, was the work that I needed to do. And so what I did before she came on was I went back through old LinkedIn posts. I went back through old Instagram posts. I went back through my calendar and just kind of took an inventory of the speaking engagements where I took photos, or events that I attended where I took photos, you know, with influencers in the community or other CEOs that are notable, you know, in the tech space. My business is technology and software development. So really making sure that I had a folder. We have a social media folder where I just dumped everything there. It caused other challenges with her trying to find the photos, but you know, at least it all lived in one place. And what it really did for me was it helped me to see, wow, to your point, I have a lot of content, right? I thought we were essentially starting from scratch. One of the other things that she was able to tell me was that when I was posting, there was a lot of engagement, right? And to your point, more specifically, when I posted with photos of myself doing something, or again, a photo with, you know, a notable person in the community, you know, or the industry, that we saw the highest engagement there. I think one post that was posted last year had over 2,000 views, right? Which I had no idea about. I mean, I just didn't know. Right. So having her to come in to say, one, that you're doing a great job, these are the other ways that I think that we can increase that. She has goals for us that we've set so that, we can actually make sure that the work that we're doing is impactful over the long run. But it was really important for me to take ownership over the fact that if I'm going to bring someone in and have them help me with this process, I need to do my part. And my part was making sure that she had the photos, making sure that she knew about the events that took place last year. Many of these events happen year over year. So identifying which speaking engagements I was going to be participating in, which events I was going to attend, and how we can frame the social media strategy around that, whether I'm tweeting about the event in real time or we're doing a follow-up post afterward. So all of that was a part of, the discussions that we had initially and the ones that we continue to have, but me taking ownership over the fact that this is an important component of the growth of the business. And this is what I need to do, I think, is the larger, bigger message out of that entire process.
And I liked what you said when you talked about the fact that you had, you went to old posts. You don't have to always use, you can regurgitate and reuse video and photos to tell your story. It doesn't always have to be, this happened today, this happened yesterday. It can be, this happened last year, give it another lift, give it another boost. And so that, I think, helps people as they're trying to get through their content as well. Don't go anywhere, Kiana. We've got some questions in the chat for you, but I do want to introduce our next case study. And so this is a dear friend of mine, Dega Shimbri, and she's the co-owner of Foundation Fitness of Cleveland Park, formerly known as City Fitness Gym. Dega is a very good friend, but also a former boss. I have taught fitness and aerobics for Dega for many years. and I am just so pleased and happy to be able to work with her on her business. This is a brick and mortar business. So these are different challenges for people that actually have a location and a brick and mortar business. When you find yourself in a shutdown and a pandemic and people have to shut down, what happens to your business and what do you do? So Dega and I didn't just talk about social media, we talked about communication plans as a whole and marketing as a whole and how she can pivot. So I wanted Dega to go ahead and introduce herself, and let's talk about how you came to me, yay, and you came to DCSBDC, and what you were looking for and what you've done since then.
Well, thank you very much. It's really an honor to be part of this. And Danielle is right. We've known each other for a long time. I consider her a really good friend. And when I found out that she was doing this marketing consulting for free, I jumped on it. I really did, because to be honest, I was completely overwhelmed with the shift in how our business was operating. We, as Danielle said, we are brick and mortar, and what we are more than that is a community center, a friendly neighborhood gym. It was where people congregated, not just for the classes, but for the community. And to have that completely taken away from you was a shock. And actually, before Danielle even came on, one of the first things that I did was, in anticipation of the shutdown, get myself on MailChimp, which was a whole challenge in and of itself, because we didn't communicate with our members that way. We didn't need to. They came into the gym. So we communicated with them in the gym, flyers, through our website. So we had to communicate through MailChimp. We had to let them know we were closed. We had to let them know we were lending equipment to, try to keep them involved. And we had to figure out a way right away to keep people a part of the gym. And so before Danielle came in, I was already starting with YouTube. And Danielle said in the very beginning of her talk, know your audience. And that's so important, because our audience is an older clientele. And I felt like transforming our classes to YouTube was the easiest way to do it. Easy for them to access. There wasn't anything that they had to do, and I would make it very clear in every email, 1, search for. 2, click on. 3, go to. 4, subscribe if you want. Very, very specific. But that's when Danielle came in, and I have to say, really made an important difference, because we lost 25% of our membership right away, right at the beginning of COVID. And it was slowly, every email I would send out with trepidation would produce cancellations, because people were members, and a lot of our members continued paying their dues throughout all of it. They weren't getting anything out of their membership. They weren't feeling a part of the community, even with YouTube Live. And so Danielle pushed me into the Zoom zone. And
I'm always pushing people out of their comfort zone.
It's a great thing. I mean, it saved, I'm going to be really honest. I think it really saved us. I thought YouTube was enough, but what Zoom offered was the ability to have a community again. And it's what people really craved. And actually it was Danielle's idea to kind of do like a Zoom launch, social launch. And that it enabled us to get our members just to come onto Zoom and, you know, engage with other members. And that then made them feel comfortable going onto Zoom for the classes. And that has saved our connection with so many of our members, and has allowed us to interact with them in a way that we were not able to before with YouTube. So I could go on and on. So I don't know what you want to ask me.
I'd like to talk about how you got the staff involved, because I don't want people, oh, there goes the train. I don't want people to think as business owners, I have to do everything myself. I have to send out every email. I have to check in, because there's still a check-in process on Zoom, right? You sign up for it. You have to find out who's there. So talk a little bit about how you got your staff involved.
Well, that's a really good question. This is what was so interesting in pivoting, is that, as I said, our gym was this friendly neighborhood gym, and the role of our staff was to be friendly to everybody that came in, give them the towels, make sure that they got checked in, you know, help them on the equipment, whatever it is that they needed to do. Well, their role has completely shifted, and now they are my administrative support. I knew that I was not going to be able to handle all the emails about Zoom, asking for the links, getting the recordings, which is a whole nother benefit of Zoom that I wasn't even aware of that you could do and figured out. And so now my staff are the ones that set up the meetings, send the links, communicate with anybody interested in the classes, and have become my administrative support. And it has made a huge difference because one, it gets them involved. But two, it has relieved me of having to deal with that, and enabled me to think about how else I can market Zoom, because one of the downfalls of Zoom is that people are on Zoom all day with their meetings. And so the last thing that they want to do is get on it for classes. But I've done a couple of things. I've offered a, what I'm calling a posture program, trying to solicit support or interest with people who would not be interested in a Zoom yoga class or a Zoom, you know, fitness class, or not think that they're interested in it, but they'll sign up for my posture program, and for an extra $20, they can all of our Zoom classes for the month. So it's a way of trying to bring new people in. Next program is going to be a balance program. The one after that is going to be chair yoga. So we're going to try to do something every month.
And I want to point out for people that the posture, and now that she said the posture, let me sit up straight.
Me too.
So the posture class is something you had done in the past. And that's, again, looking at what has worked in the past in the physical realm and how you can take that and repeat that online in a virtual way to be able to continue on with your business.
And what I found out with offering that and realized with Zoom immediately, almost immediately, is that I don't have to stay within the Cleveland Park neighborhood. I don't even have to stay within DC. I can go anywhere in the world with the Zoom.
Right.
And so I do want to say one thing about my business and in another part of the pivot. One of the things that was a beauty of our business being a brick and mortar is that we have this beautiful outdoor deck. And it's where we would host our fundraising parties every year for Girls on the Run. And it was something that our members really looked forward to. They loved being a part of because they love giving back. So I'm organizing a Zoomathon, so be on the lookout. And it's going to be a fundraiser for people that have been affected by the wildfires out in the West, because I feel like it's important for the East to reach across to the West, and for us to, in the middle of this, to remember that it's also important to give back. In addition, it will be great for marketing my Zoom classes. So
that's right. So you're feeding into, when we were talking about empathy and sympathy, that's a way it's not a product that you're selling. It's not even something that's associated with fitness, but you figured out a way to reach across the United States, show some empathy, show some sympathy, and then that, as a consumer, lets us know that you're a business that cares.
Exactly. We like to say, look good, feel good, do good.
All right, I like it. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left and we have lots of questions. Oh, before we leave, Dega, could you, well, we're not leaving, we're just going into the Q&A. How do people get in touch with you, Dega? And then Kiana, how do people get in touch with you?
You can either go to our website, which is foundfit.com. It's short for Foundation Fitness, or email me, Dega, D-E-G-A, @foundfit.com.
And Kiana, how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. So the website is globalforcetechconsulting.com. And then on social media, it's Global Force Tech on all the social media channels.
All right. So let's see. We've got plenty of questions. What were you looking for? Someone asked, what they're looking for in a consultant. So if you're looking to do this, if you're a business owner and you're looking to do this yourself, you want to make sure that your consultant has a track record in social media, is active in social media. So they should have a pretty large digital footprint. And one of the things that you cannot quantify via your internet search is a connection. What I told Kiana was, you're going to look for a community manager, you're in tech, you need somebody who at least understands the language. Like, they don't have to be a techie, but they need to at least understand the language. And then as far as contacting with somebody like me, a consultant, to come in and help you, you again want to make sure that they have a passion for social, they have a background in communications or marketing, and that they have a large digital footprint. Then Marty wants to know, what's the cost to hire a social media manager? Do you hire someone local or international? How would you answer that? How did you go about that, Kiana?
Sure. So I definitely looked for somebody that was in my immediate network. I reached out to folks and asked them if they had or knew of social media specialists or consultants that were looking for opportunities to work with small businesses like mine. And then as far as the pay, you get what you pay for, right? And so I think really framing it in the context of the value that you place on any other aspect of your business is the same value that you place on hiring someone. So if you get someone who has a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, then you can expect to pay anywhere, I'd say, between the range of 50 to 150 and up. So and obviously, you can negotiate, we're all trying to make sure that we watch our budgets. But I think from my perspective, what was more important to me was making sure that, one, I stayed within budget, but then two, that I was able to offer something that was a good fit financially for the both of us.
Good. So Dega, Stephanie Harris, and shout out to Stephanie if you're still on the call. Stephanie Harris says, hi Dega, great to see you. I taught pre-postnatal for you in 1989, and Carmen is 30 years old. See how Zoom's bringing us all together? Look at that. And then Marty has a question for you, Dega. For a business owner with a physical location, did you scale back on your paid marketing efforts, or did you ramp them up?
We did have to change our marketing efforts, honestly. We did a lot more. I used postcards that I was able to get around to apartment buildings. Rather than handing out something at the metro, we went into residential buildings. And what we changed on our website was actually promoting the Zoom classes. We decided against promoting people coming into the gym, even though the gym is open. We decided to shift a little bit on what we focused on. I don't know if that answers your question.
Kiana, can you give an example of what your strategy looks like and what your approach and goals are?
Sure. So the strategy really involved work around voice and where our target audience really is. You mentioned it's Facebook. For me, it's LinkedIn. And so knowing that and knowing where I need to be focused was definitely and is a part of the larger strategy. The other part to it is really understanding what is it that we're trying to present on social media, right? What does the messaging look like that we're trying to present to our potential customers? I do a lot of advocacy work in the technology space. So we talked about that being a core component of the strategy, making sure that the posts that we're posting really speak to the work that I'm doing around tech advocacy, specifically for women and women of color. So that was kind of an example. I mean, the larger strategy really is taking a look at what type of assets you have, what posts have done well, and then really working to identify what you want to see happen in the future. And then that leads into your goals, right? So say, for example, in my case, LinkedIn, we had the most of the posts were happening on LinkedIn. So she identified maybe we want to see a 10 to 20% uptick in posts for LinkedIn. And then identifying each specific goal and metrics that we want to see for each of the other channels as well. So Twitter right now is one of the ones that we are, deciding what we want to do for that one and how we want to reframe it. We talked about maybe moving me as the sort of personal face of the Twitter account and making it more so that is business specific. So the language and the communication is more coming from the business. So that's also a part of the strategy. It's really sort of taking a look at what you have and identifying the objectives for where you want to go based on the efforts.
Dega, can you talk a little bit about your YouTube channel? How did you communicate you were putting content on YouTube for your current clients? And did you get a larger client base after launching YouTube? And I think you answered that, but let's just revisit it. Now my question is, now that you have launched Zoom and you're doing your classes on Zoom, are you also sharing them on YouTube, or have you abandoned the channel?
We haven't abandoned the YouTube channel. The videos will stay up, and we actually consider that a augment of the membership. We're offering an online membership. I probably failed to say that, but now we're offering a special membership. And what we're saying, the way that we're packaging it, is that you get the live classes, but you also get access to the YouTube videos, even though the YouTube videos really are a public access. Right. And we, was there another question with that? We shifted.
How did you communicate that you were putting content on YouTube for your current clients? And did you get a larger client base after launching your YouTube channel?
We didn't get a larger client base launching the YouTube channel. We did increase our client base with the Zoom. And that's because we had to manage it. The YouTube was a public channel. It wasn't a private channel. Mm-hmm. And what we did find with the Zoom that we were losing with YouTube is that the current members who were still paying their dues, but not coming into the gym, instead of peeling away and canceling their memberships, they were getting involved in finding value with their membership. And that was key to us.
Right. I'd like each of you to just talk a little bit about how you're doing and how your business is doing in this pandemic. It has changed everything for us, and I'd just like to hear from my own empathy and sympathy point of view. Just do a check-in and how as small business owners, we have special needs, and we don't have the same kind of support that some of the larger businesses have, with large donors that are coming in and boards that we can bounce things off of. So I just want to do a check and see how you doing and how are things going, and where do you find your biggest challenges? And it doesn't have to be about communications.
I'll tell you, for me, the biggest challenge, the biggest concern I have is being able to continue as is, because our revenue is down significantly. You know, when I say 25% of our membership canceled in March, and then it just continued. And the only way that we are really going to be able to survive is if the landlord continues to work with us. They have worked with us so far. They believe in January things are going to go back to normal, and they're not. And so my biggest challenge is managing my anxiety of what's going to happen to my business if the landlord isn't willing to work with us, because it really does come down to that. Yeah. And then on another level, I just miss everybody so much. We have maybe 20 members that come into the gym in a day. We used to have 50 members in the gym before 11 o'clock in the morning. And the community that existed within this small neighborhood gym is really missed significantly by me. So.
Yeah. So I have sort of a different perspective, because I'm in tech and because of the influx and I think the necessity that many folks found and continue to find with using tools like Zoom. You know, from my perspective, I think the biggest challenge is just trying to meet demand, which is a totally different perspective for many other businesses, and I recognize that. So I think the other part to it is, you know, while, you know, Dega is mentioning that she misses the social interaction, I am behind the computer, you know, almost 24 hours a day. And so, you know, while, you know, going to different events in and around DC was a core component of the way that I let folks know about the business and let folks know about the work that I'm doing, the majority of my time is spent, you know, having these types of interactions. So that really wasn't a shift for me. So I think I've really sort of shifted my focus to, again, more of that advocacy work and really trying to help folks understand why technology is important, why it is critical, why we need to be teaching our children about the benefits of technology, how we can reshape and reframe technology as a core component of every aspect of our lives, and really sort of helping to reframe conversations that maybe weren't being had before about the benefits of technology. So I hope that that's, you know, impactful and helpful around this empathy and sympathy component. But the technology space is sort of where everybody is going to have to move to. And I'm grateful that my voice and my perspectives are a part of those discussions.
And we're grateful for you. We need more. We need more. Okay, we just have a couple of minutes left. So I am going to share my screen one more time. We're going to wrap this up. So just trends and looking ahead. Business travel was curtailed in 2020, and customers who learned how to video chat, whether they liked it or not, on platforms like Zoom during the pandemic are likely to continue this behavior. So Kiana's in a good space. We're not going away from technology. However, people may spend less time video chatting in groups as they get back to normal routines and feel more comfortable with in-person interactions. Of course, we're a long way away from that. US adults on mobile messaging will grow 24 minutes per day. So I'd like you business owners to think about a text message campaign. How can you reach your customers via text message? You should be collecting their emails and you should be collecting their phone numbers, because people are going to be texting more than ever. Usage of social media is going to go up. No surprise there. Platforms like Instagram and Snapchat will see a more sustained boost than Facebook from the coronavirus. These are predictions. We don't know this to be true. We went through our Q&A. I thank you guys for that. If you'd like to stay in touch with me, I'm on Twitter at Danielle Ricks. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can also get in touch with me through my website. I keep it really simple. It's just daniellericks.com. And then if you're a DC business and you too want free consultation, like I don't know who doesn't, but if you're a DC business or if you do business in DC and you would like free consultation from me or any of the other social media experts with the DC SBDC COVID-19 initiative, please visit the website right there, dcsbdc.org. We'd be happy to work with you guys. I want to thank everybody. I think I got to most of the questions. If I haven't, hit me up on social. We can continue the conversation there. Thank you to my two guests. You guys are rocking and rolling. We're just going to keep praying that that things go our way and then this pandemic puts us in a better place. So thank you everyone for joining us. I'll see you online. Bye guys.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Bye now.